Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, piloting to the University of Chinese. Let's wrap up this week's meow character. And I just realized that we have the last character that's pronounced the same except for the tone. It's a fallen. Meow, the last one. Okay, meow. Everything is meow. Here, we have this missing an eye to mean impaired vision. Therefore, we do squinting. So this is the first meow. It starts from squint and then it kind of means small. So this is the 2000 years ago version, and I just want to point out that compared to that version, this connecting part is missing. Because Chinese, I guess, we try to avoid unnecessary separation of floating parts that's not attached to anything. Originally, when the concept of 少, that based on 小, that's already kind of a three-piece. Cut something in half. That's my theory. Another version would be it's 3 grains, it's 3 tiny bits of things. Sand, grain, 3 of them. And then this almost like pretty casually drawn sign here, because it's downward, right? It means removal, reducing. So originally it was just 3 or 4 individual dots or strokes. And Chinese had a tendency of, just like a continent, we try to reduce the number of floating islands. And over massive amount of time, things get merged into one, like a Eurasia continent, right? So language too, that floating part got eventually connected. And when we see contemporary version, when I'm handwriting this character, I think for the most part, this stroke would touch the very bottom, the tip of this vertical. So it would be something like that. We try not to float a single stroke elsewhere. Okay, so that's squint, meow. Now we add a 3 water symbol over there. It just all of a sudden becomes like a squinting to see far, to see remote place. And this remoteness is somewhere on the water, because China was mostly landlocked. So water, vast expanse kind of water. Either it's a big lake, we do have some big inland lakes, or simply the ocean along the edges of the world. Like ancient times, that would be like the end of world. It's quite remote. So we use water and the squinting at water to mean the remote. And you can see here is a later invention, and this water symbol was added later on to the impaired vision of squinting, so squinting at water. And I point out, okay, the water symbol is simplified, and we have the same here, kind of missing this connecting part. And the water symbol was 5 strokes, ancient version. And when it's simplified, it's just 3 strokes. 3 dots, easier to write. Well, the last dot, sometimes it's dotted, sometimes it's big stroke like that, because after this stroke, you can see it's taper off. It's going to land. I'm talking on the brush, the ink and the brush. It's going to land right there. That's where it's pointing to. So that's why it's visualized this way. Okay, now we switch out the water symbol to fabric/fiber symbol. It all of a sudden become a thing, like a thin thread. And we can see here is another like a piece together by me, because Xishen didn't include it in the 2000 years ago dictionary. That was from the later language use, and people created variations of this squinting symbol to mean, okay, it's a thin thread. And in some cases, we pair that with a light color to mean kind of like very thin and subtle, exquisite kind of fabric. I'm not sure if it's called a taffeta in today's lingo, but it's kind of see-through, right? It's not densely woven together. You see a lot of gap in between threads. And then the color is light. We give that to mean something is really lightly covered. And miao. Okay, same pronunciation, miao miao miao. Here we remove the I symbol here. We pair the 少 symbol with a crop. And because a crop takes time to grow, right? Ancient times is almost like a very logical transition. It used to start from the very tip of the grains, hairy part, just like a human hair. But that's visible on a crop. That's a thin hair on the crop. And we use that spatial sense. Because it's a crop, it transferred to the thinnest part of time. And that's second. So you can see the ancient rendering of this. We really have this crop shape, have the root, have the leaves, and have the tip. This is the key part of it because the tip gotta be there to symbolize its dripping, its ripening. And in contemporary version, instead of drawing it, just bend it. It's not like visually very stable, right? Because it's one-sided. Somebody extend that, it become the cover, slanted cover over the top, it becomes this. And I think this is easier to write and easier on the eye as well. And instead of drawing the part like the leaves growing up, things flattened. And we have similar, very similar, just missing that top stroke, and that make it back to a wood symbol. The root canopy of the tree, so it's like a tree. And we use tree paired with 少, means getting thinner, fewer, to mean the very tip of the branch. And we use that as an end of a however period you want to, monthly, quarterly, annual, all that you can pair this 庙 with. And now the final one. Wait, that one is 庙. Okay, the final one is the only one that's pronounced as 庙, the fallen tone. I guess whenever Chinese have a fallen tone here, it kind of emphasizes, it's kind of an action word almost. And at least it give you the sense of it as a strongly felt. And I strongly felt that this wonderful concept in the history of the evolution of the character, people replace this mystery symbol, this almost like Chinese infinity sign, which came from the silk in a bundle, in a figure 8 shape, dip into the dyeing bath. That's part of the process to dyeing color. The more dips, the darker the color goes. And when the fabric kind of interlocking on this common interlocking part, that gets darker. And that is, I guess, everyday object in the dyeing process. Probably in ancient times is not as like specialized in a factory. Probably it's still specialized, but I guess enough people see it to use this silk dyeing process to signify of the concept of the mystery. Not only the color gets darker, more dips, but also this part is not visible to the outside. You can see the surface thread, but there's so many of them overlaying, iterating, and so it's like infinity, the thread going this way, that this core, this intersecting part is invisible, so densely threaded. So it represents the mystery, the unsolved, unknowable mystery. So that kind of a highbrow concept eventually, probably because dyeing silk was not sexy as placing a woman in there to mean wonderful, because women can be wonderful, especially here, 女, if you know a little about Chinese, there, in Chinese bathroom, we use this 女, but ancient times, this 女 means specifically unmarried woman, because once they get married, become mother, and then we have a symbol for motherhood. Get the tits going on there to symbolize the breastfeeding process. And so this is like non-breastfeeding, pre-breastfeeding, pre-motherhood woman. So it's at her supposedly prime age. And that Chinese language user, mostly men, would rather see that paired with, okay, this is a type of woman that's not that common. It's rare. 少 means few, right? Few women like that. To mean wonderful in replace of the mystery over there. And I interpret the mystery to all stricken sense of the mystery is hard to know, right? And the 少, like in rare occasions, you get to see a little bit of that. So that's my interpretation of why mystery paired with few. It doesn't mean fewer mysteries, but it means in fewer, rarer moments, you get to see a little bit of that mystery. And that's enough to be all-inspiring moment for you. So this is kind of unfortunate, but almost unpreventable because most language users would rather see a woman symbol over there. Okay, so here we have meow, 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 meow. All right, to mean quite a variety of things. So I would say, okay, here is time, temporal, sing is spatial, remote, spatial, right? And originally starts from spatial, but and also mean in its actual use, it also paired with the end of a season. So it's temporal as well. And meow is probably subjective. It's hard to say temporal or spatial. And then like many of these, starts with the squinting, impaired vision, not so much vision, so that I have to try harder to see. And here I point out all the 少, missing this part. It's not connected as the ancient version. And then we simplified the water symbol from the 5 strokes to 3. We simplified the thread or fabric symbol from the spool of thread thing with the root or the fabric draping symbol. It's a lot more complicated. So here we just zigzag down, give you a sense of spiraling thread. And we have the wood. We have flattened the branches of the wood from this bow shape to flat. And add additional part to complete the look of the draping crop, because this is kind of hard to write, hard to see. This is more pleasant on the eye and easier to see. And then we replace the whole mystery character with woman. What a pity, but that's okay. As I grew in this culture and I saw this from the beginning, so that's my, I guess, original cultural tinting. I wouldn't think twice or associate female with wonderful, which in a sense is wonderful. It kind of branded in our brain that somehow girls were associated with the wonderful. Now, after digging through this, I'm happy to see that we have some serious thinkers back then that paired with this mystery, this infinity sign of Chinese. All right, so meow, 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 meow. And in Chinese, we happen to describe the sound kitties making as meow. So I guess just sound-wise, and also it's a squinting. It's very appropriate for this week. Thank you for your time. See you another week.